Before this story begins, let me ask you something. Have you ever stayed quiet, not because you were weak, but because you were watching? If you've ever been underestimated in your own home, you'll understand why I didn't cry in public. And if you want more stories like this, stories where the truth finally catches up, please like, share, and subscribe. My name is Claire Bush. The Harbor View Country Club in Annapolis looked like a postcard people send when they want to prove they're doing fine. Chandeliers, linen, champagne, a string quartet pretending music can keep life polite. The night was supposed to celebrate two things: my 56th birthday and my husband Richard's retirement after 31 years in commercial real estate. People called us solid, goals, the couple who made it. Emily, our daughter, sat beside me, stiff as a statue, holding her 6-year-old son Noah's little hand so he wouldn't wander. Our son Daniel was on FaceTime from his hospital call room, the phone propped up like a guest at the table. Richard stood with a champagne glass raised and a smile that belonged on a campaign poster. "Thank you all for being here," he said, "for supporting me, for supporting us." He turned his head toward me, and for a second his eyes didn't look loving. They looked calculated. "I suppose there's no better time to be honest," he continued. The room leaned in. I've decided to start the next chapter of my life without Claire. It was like the air got sucked out of the ballroom. Forks paused. Conversations died mid-breath. And then it got worse. Someone laughed, sharp and nervous, like they'd been given permission to treat my life as entertainment. Across the room, I saw phones tilt downward, not to film me, but to text each other. The story was already moving without me in it. Emily whispered, "Mom!" Daniel's voice crackled. "What did he say?" Richard's smile tightened, as if daring me to make him the villain. And that's when I understood. He wasn't just leaving. He was trying to control the story in front of witnesses, so I'd be too humiliated to fight back. I smiled. "Thank you for finally saying it out loud," I said. A ripple went through the room. Confusion, then a few nervous laughs. Richard blinked like I'd stepped off script. I kissed Noah's head. "Finish your cherry, sweetheart," I murmured. Then I leaned toward Emily. "This night is still about your life too," I whispered. "I'm proud of you." Emily's eyes filled. "Mom, please." "Later," I said. "Not here." I reached into my purse and pulled out a sealed cream envelope, thick and plain, and placed it beside Richard's plate, like a name card. His voice turned sharp. "What's that?" "Something to read when you're done performing," I replied. A woman at the next table gasped. Someone else muttered, "Oh my God." I faced the room. "Please enjoy your evening," I said, calm as weather. "And thank you for coming." Then I walked out. I didn't rush, I didn't cry, I didn't look back. I wasn't breaking. I was ending the part where I begged to be respected. Outside, warm air filled my lungs. For the first time in years, my chest didn't feel tight. The doors banged open behind me. Richard's footsteps slapped the stone walkway. "Claire," he hissed, grabbing my elbow. I gently removed his hand. "Don't touch me." He glanced around the parking lot, still worried about eyes. "You can't just leave. You're making me look." "Like what you are?" I asked, still quiet. His jaw clenched. "What's in the envelope?" "A mirror," I said. "Read it." Then I got into my car and drove away to a hotel I'd booked days ago under my maiden name. Because I already knew what he was. And I already had a plan. Richard and I had been married 32 years. We met in Baltimore. Me, a compliance analyst who believed in paper trails, him, a real estate climber who believed in charm. He called me practical, like it was cute. I called him ambitious, like it was safe. I built stability while he chased wins. When his first venture stalled, I tightened budgets and worked extra. When he changed firms, I rewrote retirement projections. When he wanted to invest with a friend, I read the contract and found the trap he'd missed. He joked I was his safety net. I thought that meant he valued me. Now I knew it meant he expected me to catch him, no matter how far he fell. The first crack didn't come from lipstick or perfume. It came from his sister. In December, after a charity gala I skipped because I was exhausted, Margaret called. "Claire," she said, uneasy, "I saw Richard last night." "At the museum?" I asked politely. Margaret hesitated. He wasn't alone. My stomach tightened. "Who?" "A blonde woman," she whispered. "Younger. They looked close." I went still. "He told you I knew?" "Yes," she said quickly. "He said it was complicated." I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat on my bed staring at the wall until Richard came home smelling like bourbon and victory. He kissed my forehead and said, "People asked about you." I smiled and said I was tired. That night, I didn't confront him. I watched. In January, I noticed the transfers, small amounts from our joint savings to an account I didn't recognize. When I asked, Richard waved it away. "Tax planning," he said. "Temporary." I nodded like I believed him. Then I logged in the next day and traced the routing numbers. The money was going to a regional bank under an LLC, Bush Coastal Holdings. Coastal, a word that whispered new life without me. I checked property records. There were inquiries on a condo in Rehoboth Beach. Then I checked my credit monitoring and felt my blood go cold. A new line of credit in my name, opened, approved, and untouched. Someone had tried to put a match in my hand, hoping I'd be the one burned. In March, he made the mistake that ended any chance of mercy. He left his phone on the counter. A message lit up. "Lauren, after the party, we're free." Tardy. I opened the synced iPad he forgot existed and read everything. Months of messages. Plans. Lies. "Richard, I'll do it publicly. Claire hates scenes. She won't fight in front of everyone." "Lauren? And the money?" "Richard. Already moved. She never looks closely. That's her weakness." I stared at that line until my hands stopped shaking. Then I started taking screenshots like a woman packing for a fire. I didn't tell Emily or Daniel. I refused to poison their lives before I had control. I built a plan. I hired a forensic accountant, not because I needed help, but because courts respect third-party truth. I met with a divorce attorney in D.C., Philip Lawson, who spoke in timelines and consequences. I liked him immediately. Then I pulled out the prenuptial agreement Richard insisted we sign before our wedding. Just paperwork, he'd said. Section 14, a fidelity clause, enforceable for the full duration of marriage. If either spouse committed adultery, the faithful spouse kept the marital home and 70% of joint investments. Richard had smiled when he signed it. Now it would gut him. I froze my credit. I opened new accounts. I moved my separate savings, money from consulting and bonuses Richard never took seriously, into a bank he didn't use. I changed every password he'd ever watched me type. Then I took one more step because I'd learned betrayal doesn't stop at divorce. I updated my will. The retirement party was the trap Richard set, and the trap I used. The morning of the party, Philip filed for divorce and requested an emergency restraint on marital assets due to suspected concealment and identity fraud. The judge signed it that afternoon. By the time Richard lifted his champagne and tried to end me in public, his access to our money was already shrinking. He didn't know yet. When I placed the envelope beside his plate, it contained 3 things: notice of filing, the temporary asset order, and a copy of the prenup with Section 14 highlighted. He wouldn't read it during applause. Men like Richard don't read warnings until they're already bleeding. The hotel room was quiet until my phone started buzzing. Friends texted, "Are you okay? What happened? Richard says you're confused." Then Emily called, crying. "Mom," she whispered, "he told everyone you're unstable. He said you're trying to ruin him." I pressed my forehead to the window. Emily, listen. Your father has been lying for months. I'll tell you everything, but not tonight. Tonight, you go home, hold Noah, and breathe. Her voice shook. Did he cheat? Yes. A broken sound escaped her. On your birthday, in front of my son. I know, I said softly. Where are you? Safe, I replied, and prepared. There was a pause. Then she said, I'm proud of you. That almost broke me, because it wasn't pity. It was respect. The next morning, Richard called. What the hell did you do? He barked. I filed for divorce, I said. You froze the accounts, he snapped. That's my money. Then you shouldn't have moved it, I replied. He laughed, harsh. You're making yourself look crazy. You've been calling me crazy for months, I said. You just forgot I work in compliance. Silence. Then his voice dropped. Where are you? Not in our house, I replied. You're not coming home? No. His tone turned ugly. I'm bringing Lauren there. She has a right. No, I interrupted. She doesn't. And if you try, the police will explain boundaries. He hissed. You got a restraining order? On assets, I corrected. And I'll expand it if you keep threatening me. You're unbelievable, he spat. I didn't respond. His anger hit the quiet and slid off it like rain on glass. 2 minutes later, an unknown number texted. Lauren, you don't have to do this. Richard said you were reasonable. I stared at it and typed back, Claire, if he told you I'm reasonable, he should have warned you I'm also thorough. The day after the party, the social fallout came like a tide. By 9 a.m., I had 3 voicemails from women I'd sat beside at book clubs, charity luncheons, and holiday dinners. Women who had eaten my food, hugged my children, and smiled in my face while knowing something I didn't. One message stood out. Claire, it's Denise Harper, my longtime friend, said, voice syrupy and nervous. I didn't know how to tell you. Richard said you were aware. He said you and he had an arrangement. Please call me. Denise Harper, my best friend for 15 years. The woman who sat at my table and watched my husband announce his affair like I was a trophy. I called her back because I needed to hear the lie directly. Claire, Denise answered too fast. Oh, honey, are you okay? I'm fine, I said. Tell me what you knew. A pause, then a sigh that sounded rehearsed. Richard told me months ago you two were drifting. He said you didn't want intimacy, that you were depressed. He said Lauren was a temporary. Stop, I said, voice flat. Denise inhaled. Claire, I swear, I thought you knew. I let silence stretch until she squirmed. Did you see them together? I asked. Yes, she admitted, twice. And you said nothing. I didn't want to get involved, she whispered. I laughed once, sharp. You were involved the moment you chose his comfort over my dignity. Denise's voice quivered. Please don't do anything rash. Rash? I repeated softly. Denise, what I'm doing is the opposite of rash. It's documented. She went quiet. Then she said the part that mattered. Richard said if you ever found out, you'd explode. He said he needed witnesses so people would believe him. My fingers tightened around the phone. So he wasn't just planning to leave. He was planning to build a chorus. Thank you, I said calmly. That's all I needed. Claire? Wait. I hung up. And later, when the shock wore off, I realized something that chilled me more than the affair itself. Denise never once asked if I was okay. She only asked what I was going to do. That afternoon, Emily called again. Mom, Dad is calling everyone, she said, furious. He's telling people you're having a breakdown. He's telling them you're dangerous, and he's worried about you. Of course he is, I said. Emily's voice shook.
He's trying to poison the story before you can speak.
I'm not going to fight gossip with gossip, I replied. I'm going to fight lies with evidence.
But people believe him, she snapped.
Some will, I said gently, and those people were never mine.
Emily exhaled hard. He asked me to meet him. He wants to explain.
My chest tightened. Don't go alone. I'm not, she said, voice hardening. I'm bringing Margaret. I'm done. 2 days later, Emily went to the house with Margaret to pick up family photos and Noah's birthday gifts Richard had promised to send. Richard opened the door, already angry. I knew you'd turn her against me, he spat when he saw Emily. Emily didn't flinch. You turned me against you, she said, voice shaking with rage. You said you were leaving Mom at her birthday, in front of my son, like it was a joke. Richard spread his hands. Relationships change. You'll understand when you're older. Emily's eyes flashed. I'm 32. I'm old enough to understand you're a coward. Richard's face darkened. Watch your mouth. No, Emily snapped. You watch yours. You told Noah Grandma is sick in the head. Richard's eyes widened. I didn't say. I heard it, Emily cut in. You said it. You used my child to punish my mother. Margaret stepped closer. Richard, you're out of control. Richard turned on her. You always hated me. Margaret's voice broke. I loved you. That's why this hurts. Emily pointed toward the living room. Where is she? She demanded. Where's Lauren? Richard's jaw clenched. Not here. Emily let out a laugh that sounded like disbelief turning into disgust. So you blew up your family for a woman who won't even stand beside you? Richard's face went red. You don't know anything. Emily stepped forward. I know enough. I know Mom is the reason you have anything, and you tried to humiliate her to make yourself look powerful. Richard's voice rose. Your mother was always controlling. Emily's expression went icy. No, she was competent. You confuse those because you've never been either. Richard opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Emily took the family photos and walked out without another word. Margaret stayed behind a moment, staring at her brother. You're going to lose everything, she whispered. Richard sneered. She won't take it all. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. She won't, but your choices will. Later that night, Daniel called me again. I want to come home, he said quietly. You can't just leave residency, I replied. I can for a weekend, he said. I need to see him. I need to look him in the eye. When Daniel arrived that Saturday, he didn't come to the hotel first. He went straight to the house. Margaret texted me one line. He's there. It's ugly. An hour later, Daniel called. Mom, he said, voice tight. He admitted it. My stomach dropped. Admitted what? Daniel exhaled, like he was trying not to shake. He admitted he planned to blame you for debt. He said if you fought the divorce, he'd make it look like you did something wrong at work. I closed my eyes. He told you that? He said it like it was normal, Daniel snapped. Like it was strategy. I swallowed hard. What did you say? I told him he was disgusting, Daniel said. And I told him he doesn't get to call himself a father while he's trying to destroy his children's mother. There was a pause. Then Daniel's voice softened. Mom, I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. You saw him as your father, I replied. That's not your failure. That's your heart. Daniel laughed bitterly. He tried to tell me you're unstable. I didn't defend myself. I didn't argue. I let Daniel hear the truth by himself. Daniel continued. Then he asked me for money. I froze. He what? He asked me, Daniel repeated, voice sharp with disbelief. He said the accounts are frozen and he needs help until this is sorted. I sat down on the edge of the bed. What did you tell him? I told him no, Daniel said. I told him I'm not funding his affair. I felt something unclench inside me, slow and painful. Daniel's voice cracked. He called you a calculating witch. I laughed once, hollow. That's generous. Daniel went quiet. He's not sorry, Mom, he said softly. He's scared. Yes, I replied. That's the first honest emotion he's had in years. The next week brought another no-way moment. Our investment advisor called me directly, confused. Claire, he said carefully, Richard requested a liquidation of your company's stock plan. He said you approved. My blood turned to ice. That stock plan is in my name, I said. I know, the advisor replied. That's why I called. The request came with a signature, but it doesn't look like yours. I closed my eyes. Send me everything, right now. When the email arrived, my hand shook as I opened it. The signature was a sloppy imitation. The request was timed for the day after the party, like he assumed I'd be too shattered to notice. He wasn't just taking money. He was trying to steal my future twice. I forwarded the documents to Philip. Philip called back almost immediately. That, he said, voice clipped, is attempted forgery. It strengthens our fraud argument. I stared out at the harbor, eyes burning. How far was he going to go? As far as you let him, Philip replied. And you're not letting him anymore. That night, I sat in the dark hotel room while Emily slept in the other bed, and Noah breathed softly, safe and unaware. I let myself cry for exactly 5 minutes. Not because I missed Richard, because I missed the life I thought I had. Then I wiped my face, opened my laptop, and added another tab to my folder, Stock Plan Forgery. If Richard wanted to keep escalating, I would keep documenting. Because that was the difference between us. He played games. I kept records. 3 days later, I went to the house in Margaret. I wasn't there to talk. I was there to retrieve documents and make sure my personal files were safe. Richard met us in the hallway, eyes bright with fury. Back already? He sneered. Come to apologize? I walked past him. Move. He blocked the stairs. You're not going upstairs. Margaret's voice shook. Richard, stop. He ignored her, staring at me. Everyone knows you're unstable now. I tilted my head. Do they? His smile twitched. I stepped around him and went upstairs to my home office. My desk drawer was open. My laptop's angle was wrong. A security email glowed on my phone. Password reset requested. My password didn't work. I turned slowly. Richard stood in the doorway, breathing hard like a man enjoying control. He shrugged. I'm protecting myself. From what? I asked. Your choices? His eyes narrowed. You think you can freeze money and take me down? I have copies, emails, things from your work, things that could make you look questionable. My stomach dropped. So that was the plan. Leave me humiliated, then destroy my career so I couldn't fight back. You were going to frame me, I said softly. Richard's mouth curled. Call it leveling the field. Margaret gasped. Richard, what is wrong with you? I lifted my phone. Say that again, I said. He blinked. What? I pressed stop on the recording app. Richard's face drained. You recorded me? I record threats, I said calmly, especially when they come with admissions. He lunged as if to grab my phone. Margaret stepped between us. Don't. I backed away, voice steady. I'm taking my documents. If you access my work systems again, I will notify my employer and file a police report. Richard spat. You wouldn't. I looked at him. Try me. Then I walked out with Margaret beside me, heart pounding, mind cold. That night, I met our internal ethics counsel, Teresa, after hours. I played the recording. Teresa listened without blinking, then said, Okay, IT locks your credentials tonight. We audit everything. If he touched your files, we'll know. I swallowed. Can he ruin me? Teresa's voice turned steel. Not if you keep doing what you're doing, documenting,
reporting, staying ahead. Then she added quietly, "Polite women get blamed. You don't have to be polite anymore."
The first hearing was brief but brutal.
Richard arrived with a billboard attorney, all teeth and confidence.
Philip Lawson stood beside me, calm.
Judge Denise Carter listened as Philip presented the evidence: hidden transfers, planned concealment, identity fraud concerns. Richard's attorney claimed the prenup was outdated, claimed I was emotional. Judge Carter looked directly at Richard. "Mr. Bush, do you deny adultery?"
Richard's mouth tightened. "It's not relevant."
Judge Carter's eyes narrowed.
"It is when you signed a fidelity clause."
Richard's attorney tried to interrupt. Judge Carter cut him off. "Sit down."
She maintained the asset freeze pending discovery, granted me exclusive use of the home, and ordered temporary support calculated from verified income, not fantasies.
Richard's face went gray.
As we left, he tried to approach me. The bailiff stepped between us.
"Claire," Richard hissed, "you're killing me."
I met his gaze. "No," I said. "I'm letting you live with what you did."
2 days later, the smaller twist arrived, through a phone call from Lauren.
I almost didn't answer, but I did.
"Claire," she said, voice tight,
"I didn't know he opened credit in your name."
I said nothing.
She swallowed. "He told me you were separated. He told me you were unstable. He told me you'd be grateful he was leaving."
I laughed once, sharp. "He told you whatever made you stay."
Lauren's breath hitched. "He asked me to email your employer."
My stomach tightened. To report me?
"Yes," she whispered. "He wanted me to say you were leaking information. He said it would make you back off."
"Do you have proof?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "He emailed instructions."
"Send it to my attorney," I replied. She hesitated. "I don't want my name in court."
"It already is," I said quietly. "You just didn't realize."
After we hung up, Philip called me back minutes later.
"This is intent," he said, voice sharp with satisfaction. "Retaliation. Sabotage. It's leverage."
I didn't feel happy. I felt done. Because the man I'd loved was now trying to burn my livelihood to win a divorce he started.
I received an email from HR. "Immediate review required. Compliance concern." An anonymous report accused me of leaking documents and behaving erratically. It included screenshots of my work files.
Real screenshots. Cropped and twisted to suggest misconduct.
My hands shook. I called Teresa, then Philip. Teresa's voice was steady. "We have logs. The access isn't yours." Philip's voice was sharper. "This is perfect." "Perfect," I whispered. "Legally," he said, "he just crossed into a line that judges hate. We file emergency motions, we request sanctions, we ask for a protective order."
My throat tightened. What about my job?
Teresa cut in on speakerphone. "Your job is protected by your paper trail. His lie is not." I inhaled until my lungs ached. Then I remembered something. Richard couldn't stop. Not until someone forced him. So we forced him. Judge Carter scheduled an expedited hearing. Richard arrived looking smug, like he believed he'd finally shaken me. He didn't know Teresa would testify. He didn't know IT logs would be presented. He didn't know Philip had Lauren's email and my recording. Judge Carter listened as Teresa explained the report's origin, the Bush Home Network, a device associated with Richard. Judge Carter's gaze turned cold. "Mr. Bush, did you attempt to sabotage your wife's employment?" Richard's attorney stood. "Your Honor?" Judge Carter cut him off. I asked Mr. Bush. Richard's face went white. "No," he said, weak. Judge Carter tapped the bench. "I do not tolerate retaliation. Protective order granted. No direct contact. Any communication through counsel. And I am ordering referral for review regarding identity fraud and attempted sabotage."
Richard's shoulders sagged. Paper had finally handcuffed Charm.
In the hallway, he tried to speak to me again. The court officer stopped him.
"You're ruining me," he choked.
I looked at him calmly. "You ruined you," I replied. Discovery revealed what Richard had hidden under all his confidence.
Bush Coastal Holdings wasn't just an exit fund. It was a debt sponge.
Loans against future commissions, personal guarantees, leverage built on the assumption I'd never look closely. Philip spread documents across the table. "He wasn't leaving you with nothing," Philip said. "He was leaving you with liability." Emily's face hardened. "He would have ruined you." "Yes," I said softly. "That was the point." And the social consequences, the ones Richard thought he could control, started turning on him. Invitations stopped coming. The charity board postponed my pugless for optics, then quietly removed Richard from a committee he'd bragged about for years. Men who used to slap his back at the club started missing his calls. The people who once told me we were goals suddenly remembered they had errands. Richard had planned to leave with sympathy, money, and a clean reputation. And if I thought back, he planned to brand me unstable and professionally compromised. He'd counted on my silence. He'd counted on my decency. He forgot decency doesn't mean surrender. The final hearing came in September. Richard looked older, smaller, like consequences had eaten the edges of him. Judge Carter upheld the prenuptial agreement in full. Home to me, retirement protected, 70% of joint investments awarded per the fidelity clause, verified support set for a limited term. Then she addressed the fraud and sabotage concerns. "This matter has been referred for review," she said. "Any criminal determinations will be made by the appropriate authorities." Richard's face crumpled. Outside the courtroom, he stood in the hallway, eyes wet but empty. "I destroyed everything," he whispered. "Yes," I said quietly. "You did." His voice cracked. "Do you hate me?" I looked at him, really looked. The man who once held my hand at our children's births. The man who now tried to use my name as a weapon. "No," I said, "hate is still attachment. I feel clarity." He swallowed. "I'm sorry. Tears after consequences aren't repentance," I said gently. "They're discomfort." He flinched like I'd slapped him. Then he said something true for the first time in years. "I underestimated you." I nodded. "Yes," I said, "you did." And I walked away into sunlight. In early October, the state investigator assigned to the credit line complaint called me. "Mrs. Bush," he said, professional, "we're reviewing the documentation. I'm going to ask a simple question. Did you authorize the application?" "No," I said. "And did your husband have access to your personal identifiers?" he asked. "Yes," I replied. "For 32 years. There was a pause. Then his tone shifted slightly, less procedural, more human. "All right," he said. "Thank you. That's all for now." When I hung up, I didn't feel vindicated. I felt strangely calm. Because whether the state filed charges or not, the truth was already doing its work. Richard's colleagues stopped inviting him to lunches. The concerned texts turned into silence. Denise Harper stopped returning calls entirely. People don't like proximity to a sinking ship, especially when it smells like fraud. And the last time I heard Richard's name, it wasn't followed by admiration. It was followed by, "Did you hear what happened?" One afternoon, as I left Philip's office, I saw Richard in the lobby across the street, pacing with his phone pressed to his ear, face flushed. He looked up and saw me. He started toward me automatically, old habit, old entitlement, then remembered the protective order and stopped short like an invisible wall had slammed down. He lifted his hands in a helpless gesture. I didn't wave, I didn't glare. I simply turned and walked away. That's the part he never understood. My power wasn't in how loudly I could react. It was in how easily I could leave him behind. I didn't rebuild my life by pretending it didn't hurt. I rebuilt it by choosing myself without apology.
I sold the big house and moved into a smaller townhouse near the water. Quiet, manageable. Mine.
I resigned from corporate life and opened a consultancy, Bush Financial Transitions, helping women understand their money before someone else decides their future for them. My first clients found me through whispers: women in marriages where finances were controlled, women facing divorce, women being pressured by in-laws after a death, women who'd spent decades trusting the wrong person. Every time a woman sat across from me and said, "I feel stupid," I leaned forward and said, "You're not stupid. You are trusting. There's a difference." By December, my little office by the harbor had a waiting list. Not because I was advertising, but because women talk, quietly, urgently, to each other. I created a simple intake form. What do you know? What do you suspect? What do you need to protect? I taught women how to read statements, how to set up credit monitoring, how to document without spiraling. I taught them the truth I learned too late. Love should never require blindness. Emily visited with Noah in November and watched me work between appointments. "You look different," she said softly. "Older?" I teased. She shook her head. "Lighter." I exhaled. "I feel lighter." She hesitated. Noah asked about Grandpa. My chest tightened. "What did you say?" I said, "Grandpa made choices," she replied, "and choices have consequences, and Grandma is safe." I squeezed her hand. "Thank you." Emily's eyes shone. "Mom," she whispered, "you weren't weak." I felt tears sting, unexpected, clean. "I know," I said. She smiled through her own tears. "You were waiting." I laughed quietly, because hearing my truth spoken back to me felt like closure. And some evenings, when the sun set orange over the water and the office finally emptied, I would sit alone with a cup of tea and feel the most unexpected thing. Gratitude. Not for the betrayal, for the wake-up call. Because I wasn't starting over at 56. I was finally starting from my own side. My name is Claire Bush, and this was The Last Straw. If you enjoyed this story, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe.